ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। So let us chant till the 20th shloka. कर्तुराज्ञया प्राप्यते फलं कर्म किं परं कर्म तज्जडं कृतिमहो ददौ पतनकारणं फलमशाश्वतं गतिनिरोधकम् ईश्वरार्पितं नेच्छया कृतं चित्तशोधकं मुक्तिसाधकं कायवाङ्मनकार्यमुत्तमं पूजनं जपश्चिन्तनं क्रमात् जगत ईषधीयुक्तसेवनम् अष्टमूर्तिभृद्देवपूजनम् उत्तमस्तवादुच्चमन्दतः चित्तजं जपध्यानमुत्तमम् आज्यधारया स्रोतसा समं सरलचिन्तनं विरलतः परम् भेदभावनात् सोऽहमित्यसौ भावनाभिदा पावनीमता भावशून्यसद्भावसुस्थितिः भावनाबलात् भक्तिरुत्तमा हृस्थले मनः स्वस्थता क्रिया भक्तियोगबोधाश्च निश्चितं वायुरोधनात् लीयते मनः जालपक्षिवत् रोधसाधनं चित्तवायवश्चित्क्रियायुताः शाखयोर्द्वयी शक्तिमूलका लयविनाशने उभयरोधने लयगतं पुनर्भवति नोऽमृतं प्राणबन्धनात् लीनमानसम् एकचिन्तनात् नाशमेत्यदः नष्टमानसोत्कृष्टयोगिनः कृत्यमस्ति किं स्वस्तितिं यतः दृश्यवारितं चित्तमात्मनः चित्वदर्शनं मानसं तु किं मार्गणे कृते नैव मानसं मार्ग आर्जवात् वृत्तयस्त्वहं वृत्तिमाश्रिताः वृत्तयो मनो विद्यहं मनः अहमयं कुतो भवति चिन्वतः ऐपतत्यहं निजविचारणम् अहमिनाशभाजहमहं तया स्फुरति हृत्स्वयं परमपूर्णसत्। The last two shlokas probably nobody chanted because it was the first time. So the 19th shloka, repeat after me. The 19th shloka in my book is on page 54. Okay. In your books it is 59. अहमयं कुतो भवति चिन्वतः ऐपतत्यहं निजविचारणम् अहमिनाशभाजहमहं तया जहमहं तया स्फुरति हृत्स्वयं परमपूर्णसत्. In the path of inquiry, as we saw last time, it is not why it is important, what is important. What exactly is this mind? Why does it function? Is automatically understood. We have to understand the context of this mind. So, in the 17th and 18th shloka last time when we met, we saw Vrittayastvaham vrittimashritaha vrittayo mano vidyaham manaha. That analysis leads to a point wherein we become subtle and observant. Subtle and observant about what? That mind is nothing but matter. So, there are various kinds of emotions, ideas, thoughts that flow by. Sometimes they flow by with such vehement flow, fast flow, that it almost feels like head is spinning. It almost feels like that something has taken over from within. Have you ever had that kind of an experience with your emotions or thoughts and ideas, that you are consumed by it from within? When I was young, my rage was like that. There is no reason, there is nothing that can come in picture, it just takes over. And once it comes, the devastating effect it has on people around, and because of that devastating effect, the kind of guilt that carries forward within, that I know I should not, but I don't know why it happens. There are various such, when as simple a thought as, say, you are craving for something, that is also a thought, feeling of that craving. Craving for food, craving for gadget, craving for a new update, craving for various things. But when it gets, when it consumes you from within, craving for shopping, as I see various people, I get inspired with examples. Craving for Groupons. So much so that people end up into, I hear this, that they get into shopping not because they want it, not because there is a need, but because it is on sale. Have you heard of such? It becomes like a compulsion, you don't know how to stop it. Sometimes, when I am traveling, especially back to back, various places, various cities, various houses, going around, many a times it tests my prarabdha. Because if I go into a city and the first meal, say it was an eggplant, next about 7 days or 5 days, or 10 meals, eggplant will repeat itself. If it is cabbage, cabbage will repeat itself in one format or the other. Probably because that is what is new, that is what is in the market, that is what is the season, whatever be the reason, that is my prarabdha. and I am traveling really, back to back, I crave for what? My own cooked simple food. Probably when you are in universities, did you crave for your mom's food? What are you talking about? University. Even now, when we are out, we look forward for that. So, a craving that takes over, and sometimes it becomes so impulsive that craving takes over that I land up in the kitchen of the host. I very politely nudge them out that I'll take over, I'll cook something. Sometimes it is purely to experiment or to cook something. Sometimes when the craving takes over, it's fun to watch. Sometimes when you are not watching, all these various things, they take over and consume us from within. So here there is a very subtle, beautiful thought given in the 18th shloka, is that thought per se does not have the capacity to take any grip on you, the individual. Thought is made up of matter, and matter is inherently in its inertia. Matter does not have its own strength to move, its own strength to create any kinds of ripple. It requires a certain energizing interface. Consciousness is that, or the life spark within is that energizing principle which, when comes in touch with the thought, matter, the matter seems to move. Where are we? We are one with the matter and not one with the consciousness. So, as and when the thought amplifies its agitation, I get agitated along with it. And here we are not talking about positive thoughts or negative thoughts. Any thought that amplifies itself and I do not have the standpoint of consciousness and I seem to be tossed up and down. Sometimes even the good thoughts are like that. That lack of accessibility, it creates that vulnerability. So, how do you observe and get to the standpoint of consciousness, from where you can observe the matter move. And that aspect of matter which does not seem to be productive or useful, you pull the plug, you disassociate yourself from the thought. It may seem to carry forward a little distance, and that happens because of the momentum. You may have seen the fans, right? When it is on, it moves. When you turn it off, does it suddenly stop? It continues to move, but not for long. It's the momentum that it keeps it moving. Similarly, the thought seems to be trickling still, though you have disassociated. It's the momentum that carries it forward. And we need patience at that time. Yes, many times we are able to pull, but because of that momentum and the strength of the momentum being so strong, we get sucked in again, almost instantly. This is almost like an art. Then you sit, watch, and pull yourself and watch that move. Like have you ever seen a parade? When you are on a higher platform and there is a parade going by. On the Christmas time in New York, is it Macy's parade? Thanksgiving, okay. So you get that higher elevated platform from where you can see everything. You don't need to be the one dancing in there. You can observe all the dance happening. Once you learn that art to separate yourself and observe it. Once you have learned that knack, does it really matter how powerful that thought is? How overwhelming that thought is? How consuming that thought can become? Because now the power is with me that if I need it, I will empower it. Otherwise, I will just pull the plug and let it die. So, in the 18th shloka, it is said, ability to observe vrittayaha manaha vidyaham manaha. That I am that conscious principle enabling that thought to move. It is the I thought which enables the object of the thought to move. Now, moving forward, we have discussed all this. I don't know what you are seriously writing notes about, because we have covered this earlier. Doesn't hurt, but I am just saying. Ayam ahamayam kutaha bhavati chinvataha. The I thought, when you start observing the I thought itself. So far in the earlier shloka, what it was? I am observing the thought. The thought is an object and I am the observer. The I thought is observing. Now, here we are taking it to a subtler step, the next step. Now, we are investigating into the I thought. Here aham means ahankara, the subtle form of ahankara. The ego is observing the thought. Now, you are observing the ego itself. Aham ahayam kutaha bhavati chinvataha. Chinvataha, the one who is enquiring. Enquires into the nature, enquires into the very existence and validity of that I thought. What happens? He says it's so simple, but to get to this state of simplicity, it takes rigorous discipline of practice. He says, Ayi patatyaham. Ayi means, in something like in Hindi they say, Are? How do you translate that into English? Can you find one word, syllable which can translate Are? Oy is Punjabi. Oy. One word that I often see which is used is wow. And again, wow is used in various, there is a good wow, there is a bad wow, there is an indifferent wow. As when I came into this country, the first experience was I met with an accident. And I told this to people and the congregation said, wow. And I was like, what kind of heartless people are these? Because my head, the translation was wow equals wow. So I am saying something which was painful and these people are saying wow, wow. It's only later they understood that wow means unimaginable. Oh my God, unimaginable, wow. And I was really surprised. Now that makes it easy. That was a shock to wow. And you're surprised, there's again wow. And you want to be indifferent. Wow. Really? Wow is used the way you use it. So here I is almost similar to that surprised wow. And what is the surprise here? He says, I patatyaham nija vicharanam. There was this doll, a beautiful, cute little doll. Now, what happened to this doll? Sometimes when the kids here who have grown up, they are on the samashti bhiksha or the food when it's being served. I'd like to have some dal. What they mean is not a doll but a dal. So it's not the dal, it's a doll. And the uniqueness of this doll was that it was made out of, it was carved out of salt crystals. The salt, it is a crystalline form, it was made out of salt. Somebody said, do you know where you come from? I don't know. You come from, you originate from the ocean. You must be kidding. It's water, I am not water. It's so vast. How can I be that? So went through Wikipedia, went through a lot of research, try to find the processing of how to obtain salt. And all the pointers, all the indicators pointed towards the ocean being the source. Now inspired, wanted to investigate further firsthand, wanted to see the ocean. Visited the ocean, you have to imagine a tiny little doll, cute little doll walking to the ocean, waves. It's still on the sand, dry sand area. And it saw the waves coming, almost reaching out. It's like your own source calling out for you and saying, Aja beta, come. So from that dry piece of sand, the beach that it was standing, it started running towards. Now you can imagine a slow motion, running towards the waves. As it hits the first wave, reaches to the first wave, the investigating doll, what happens to it? Hai? Hare? Wow, it just vanishes. Come on, you must be kidding. How can something vanish just like that? It becomes one with totality. Does the example make sense? Now, don't catch me on the technicalities like how can a salt doll think and run towards. It's impossible. Don't catch me on those. You get the essence of the story. So, as the doll comes into contact with its source, what happens to its own existence? Sometimes many a seeker, when they sit on the seat of meditation, intensely observing the I thought, and suddenly the I thought vanishes. And it's like you're slipping into self-annihilation. And they get so scared that they turn back and try to grab on anything to get a hold, to get back that identity. It's a very scary feeling. Why is it a scary feeling? Because the investigator investigating into the very source finally understands that the investigation and the investigator both vanish. It's a very intense moment. But when you immediately see the spark of consciousness illumining all this, and you from that conscious perspective look at that final I thought and its merger, that day is the day to celebrate. Do you know why? You are no more limited. You are no more an individuality. The totality starts expressing through that system of body, mind and intellect. So far I have had little energy, little capacity, little thought, little wisdom, and suddenly merging with that totality, Sarvajñatva, Sarvashaktimatva, Sarvavyapakatva, all these various aspects of totality start expressing through. Though this is not a part of the Upadeshasara text itself, but taking a little tangent. It is at this stage of oneness with totality that people start experiencing what we call as mystic miracles. That before somebody can say something, you already know their thought. I can read your mind, I don't need to. You can communicate without uttering a word. In the Dakshinamurti Stotram, there is a very beautiful usage. It says, Mauna Vyakhya Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam Yuvanam. There is this dialogue between Lord Shiva as Dakshinamurti, and he has these 4 seekers. They are the Brahmaji's sons, Sanat Kumaras, they are sitting. And there is an intense environment of communication. And Gurudev translates it as an eloquent dialogue of silence. Lot is being communicated without uttering a word. You don't need to go to the level of totality. When you have grown up with your sibling for 20-30 years in one environment, and there is another group of people who have come in, and there are times you have to communicate and you don't even need to utter a word, a glance, a wink, just a gesture. Doesn't it communicate a lot? Many times you as Yuvaveers, when you are all gathered together and there is another Yuva Kendra member comes in, or a group of Yuva Kendra members come in. There is a lot that happened in those 2 months and later. Then suddenly you communicate and the rest of them, what are they talking? Without communicating, there is a lot happening. Somebody says something and it reminds you of something, you look at the other person. And the other person exactly knows what is going on in your mind, and there is a communication which is already communicated, and then you start laughing. And the others are like, wait a second, weird group of kids. What happened? Come again. Oh, I am lost. What was happening? No, it's nothing. See, even at a very physical level, there is a communication happening without communicating. And just to give you the feel of it. Now, once you become one with totality, you can communicate to not just one individual, group of them without communicating. There was an experiment done in 90s in New York. At that time there was high rate of what do you call that? Violence or criminal activities and other things. That's why you see most of the origin of law and order, it's all based off of New York. Most of it. It was during that time, the crime rate was way up there. So there was an experiment done. There was a forum of Hindu and a Buddhist, and a couple of them who were practitioners of meditation. They said, if there is a collective practicing forum for meditation, that will impact and change the entire environment. And they did morning to evening, about say every day about 14 hours of collective meditation, and they had about 5,000 people volunteer. And they experimented this for a month or 2 months, I am not very sure. They experimented it. Do you know the crime rate, to what level it fell down? $50. No, crime rate did not fall for $50. It's that phone went off, and that's a fine. The crime rate fell by 40%. So there are many people who come and say, all these realized masters, why don't they come back into the world and do something? Once you have touched that totality, you don't really need to come out and jump into totality to do. Just sankalpa, just a thought is enough to powerfully influence the totality back. Presently, we are an individual who is weak, who is not strong, who gets influenced by the totality. You want to wear what others wear. That's the influence of totality. Oh, you can see this in India, a new movie, and it has become a blockbuster, and within next 15-20 days, all the ghagra, choli or whatever designed clothes and other things, they come out into the market and they become a huge hit. While I was still in school studying, there was this movie which became a mega hit. I think that was the first movie of Salman Khan or something. He said, I too loved, maine pyar kiya. And there was a cap that he wears, a funny looking cap, a goofy looking cap. Within next 15 days, every fellow was wearing it. Definitely not. For those observing, a smart Alec asked me, was I one of those following it? No, I was not. So the totality, when the kids come to what, 7th grade or 6th grade, they start becoming brand conscious. Why? All of their friends are, they wear certain brands. What are some of the famous brands? Polo and Tommy Hilfiger. That are usually bought by the parents for the children. And this is my observation, that's all. Sort of kind of. When you want to purchase, what was it? Abercrombie or American Eagle, Gape. Aero, Postal, various brands. The totality is all in sync with there, and then you also want the same. The totality starts gelling their hair in a certain pattern. You also want. how you call that, spike. I know only the, and there was one time frame wherein it was craze that rest of the hair would be shaved, but there is one middle mohawk. Everybody was wearing that. Totality influencing the individual. Here, once you merge with totality, once you become one with totality, you start influencing that totality without even moving an inch, just by thought. You may have heard of Mahatmas who have given physical darshan to people in multiple geographical dispositions. Have you read the book called Autobiography of a Yogi? Most of the inquisitive seekers often read through that inadvertently. So there is one mention of Swami Prabhavananda or Pranavananda. He is seen to be interacted with 6 different places at the same time. And people are like, it's not possible, I was with him there. And I said, no, I was with him at this time and there. And they go meet him again next day and they said, did you meet me there? I said, I was sitting only here. Once you identify with the totality, you have transcended matter in such a manner that you can start manipulating matter around. A word of caution. Do not do sadhana to acquire that. Many people come to me and they start asking things that, can you do something miraculous? I said, yes, there is a glass of water, I can empty it. That is not a miracle, I can also do it. I thought magicians, when they vanish things, this is not a magician's level, purely at a conscious level wherein anything can be managed. That is the power of totality working through that system. Ayi patatyaham nija vicharanat. That individuality merges, that ego merges, culminates itself to become one with the totality. And once that happens, what is experienced? That is said in the next shloka, which we have already read. Ahaminashabha jaham aham taya spurati hritspayam parama purna sat. Once this ahaminashabhaji, once this ego, aham, ahankara, is merged, destroyed, what shines forth from that system is pure consciousness. All the clashes happen because of the individualistic ego perceiving and comparing. I was in a fair and I usually go to the fair just to see the crowd and observe the crowd. There is a lot of things that can be observed, sometimes very amusing. So there were these parents of 3 kids. The older one was really old, meaning he must be around 15-16-year-old, standing aloof from the family, almost saying that I have got nothing to do with them all. And the 2 other siblings were really young. and there was something going on between those two. One was saying green, the other was saying red, and they were arguing very strongly. And then the father looked at the argument that was happening, and he pulled out the glasses that they were wearing. You know, when you go to these fairs, you get these funny glasses, right? Like a feather glasses with some color in it. So these two little kids were wearing these glasses. One was wearing green color, the other one was wearing red color. And what was the argument about? All that I am seeing is red. He says, all that I am seeing is green. Remove that. And what do you end up seeing? And to see, do you need that layer of green and red? You don't. Similarly, to perceive, to experience, to find that oneness with the entire totality around, you don't need the ego or its existence to interact. Consciousness can directly function through the organs of perception and action, and it is a pure experience, uncorrupted with the layers of ego. Ahaminasha bhaji, when that gets destroyed, spurati hrutsvayam aham aham taya. There is a throbbing bliss expressing in every aspect of existence. Akhanda mandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam. Where does this come? You better know. This comes in Guru Stotram. And what does that very sentence say? Akhanda mandalakaram. Khanda, fragmented. Akhanda, unfragmented. Mandalakaram, homogeneous mass of existence. Throbbing in bliss, where every aspect of interaction or creation. Parama Purna Sat. You feel complete from within. So somebody may ask, when I feel already complete, why would I interact with the world? I am already happy, why would I interact with the world? Why would I work in this world? That seems redundant, because today I am working so that I can be happy. I am already happy, why would I work again? Now, such person, when they start working, when they start interacting, when they start at personal level, whether it is with people or with different environments, we find that their expression is to share the joy, share that happiness with everybody that they interact with. Such is contagious impact of interacting with such individual, that as long as you are in their presence, it almost feels that you are so complete from within yourself. That is the impact of their very presence. Many of you, when you met Guruji, those 5-6 days that he was there in the course, in the YEP course, invariably all 31 of you ended up saying, though there was not any personal contact or touch that you could relate, but in their presence, there is a different kind of a glow, different kind of a energy. There's something soothing, something amazing. Because it is Purnatva, completeness from within. And that completeness only goes out to share that completeness with everybody. Ahaminashabhaji ahamaham taya spurati hrutsvayam parama purna sat. And this can be declared as self-realization or the moment of glorious experience of supreme unfolding at this level. Once that happens, can we go back to the redundant egoistic stage again? It's already done, melted. It's almost, it also is said that when such individual works in this world, expresses in this world, every expression of that individual seems to be in benefiting the entire totality, entire humanity in a very comprehensive manner. Ahaminashabha jahamaham taya spurati hrutsvayam parama purna sat. That is how the experience of the realization or the realized one envelops everything. Having reached where? Sarva kama purno bhavati. It almost feels like all the desires are fulfilled. Isn't it amazing? That we are now struggling to have one desire at a time and trying to fulfill. Now, here is an experience wherein all your desires once and for all are completely fulfilled. Can you imagine the amount of satisfaction? One desire getting fulfilled, you feel little accomplished and satisfied. All of them fulfilled at the very same time. And that joy or that happiness is unending, never lost after that. Once you know it is unending and never lost, would you really mind to be a miser? How can I give my happiness? My happiness. The children do that. My toys, nobody else touches it. My things, nobody else. We have grown horizontally and vertically, but that mentality still continues. When the kids do it, it looks very so sweet. It looks cute. The same mentality if depicted by adults, it looks ugly. There is no more hankering over, no more trying to grab. It is more like to give. Therefore, the expression that if you truly love something, how can you define that moment of love? Is that you can give without loving. Have you ever experienced? You may have. Somebody pestering you for something. Okay, take, go. Dafa ho ja, le, ja. Go. You can give without love, but truly love. Loving happens only in giving. You can give without love, but you cannot love without giving. It expresses as giving. Because there is nothing more to be afraid of that if I give, I will lose. There is so much. You can only give it away with both hands. That is the amazing experience of the one realized, which is the intent of the path of enquiry and its directness. So, the two shlokas are completed. 7 minutes more if you have any questions. You can check your other group meet text. Those who are listening to this online.
Actually, it's part of the last time. When you were saying that you have to ask what, not why, you have various thoughts. So when we journal and we're writing these thoughts, I feel like I'm just asking why, usually. And so I was just saying, I think I'm going around it the wrong way. So could you give an example of how to even think of what? I feel like I always think, oh, why is this happening?
So, the journaling which has been introduced seems to be more focusing on why rather than what, as mentioned in the earlier shloka. Now, this shloka and the journaling are like 100 steps apart. There is a huge difference. Presently, we are so enveloped with material and matter that we can very easily classify into two, that which is positive and that which is negative. So, the effort put through the journaling is to transcend from bad to good, from negative to positive. Having reached to that positive platform, then enquiry begins. Then you drop the why and what becomes important. If you think you have reached to that state, if you reach to that state, then what becomes natural? Until then, pursue your why. Okay. Yes, sir. How long should one pursue that why? How long will you sit in front of the dining table? You sit at a dining table to eat, but how long will you continue? What is done? Until you are satisfied, right? Until you feel satiated. Similarly, what is the end point of this analysis of why or investigation into why? Is the accessibility with which I can pluck myself out of the negativities and come to a stable platform of positivities at ease. Such is the ease wherein even if there was by mistake a overwhelming thought of negativity that passes by, I can laugh at it, not get scared by it. Until then, the process of why can be continued. Any other questions here or online? Nobody? Wow. Is there anybody?
Even if we have that clarity in emotional, egotistical moments, I forget about my separateness. How can I remember to pull myself out from those moments? How can I remember to pull myself out from those moments?
At this moment, I mean, based on the question is, even though I seem to carry that clarity, I seem to be still pulled down by these negativities. How do I pull myself out of those negativities at that time? The answer is simple, but it requires a lot of hard work. You do not dig the well when the house is on fire. You keep the well ready, or the source of water ready, that if in case of fire you can use it readily. So, having this clarity and jumping into the world of happening, thinking that you can handle it, would be not a wise thing to do. So, over a period of time practicing this so that I can apply it in my day to day life when it happens, there are various stages. First, that negativity happens and I am not even conscious of it. Even if somebody were to observe and relate it to us, we are in a denial. No, it's not me. I could not have done that. No, it's not me. No, we are in a denial. The next stage is that it has happened and then you start relating to it. Oh, again. That's why remember when we were in the course, the example I said, some people are so pathetic that though they have done that mistake and they are realizing it afterwards, shamelessly they sing about it. Oops, I did it again. Remember that example I had given? Because that is when the guilt starts becoming heavier, because you know it is not right, but you are realizing it just after it has happened. Again. Then the third stage is as it is unfolding and you are getting carried away, at that very moment when that emotion is strong and the negativity is carrying you away and you are tossing and you go through that painful moment of helplessness. Wish I had an anchor, wish I had something wherein I could just stop this. Then comes the moment wherein you realize something is just about to happen, but before you can balance it out, you are already in. Then comes the stage wherein before it happens, as soon as you see the environment developing towards that burst of negativity, you can nip it at bud and step out. Then comes the stage wherein for its utility, you are no more scared about it. You have that accessibility, for the utility purpose, you indulge, invoke that particular emotion, use it, and after having used it, withdraw from it. Sometimes there are environments wherein unless you are seen angry, the message will not get across. Presently, I am developing into that environment with regards to all the upstairs, because the deadline for the Yuva Govindam is coming on, and many of you have not started working. What was the deadline, Akhilesh? So, by February, we said we should have everything in place, and this is what? So, consider yourself as a final notice issued. You have another 2 weeks to get your acts in line. I need to see that book ready to be published, to be edited by me in another 2 weeks. How you do it? Go figure. I have given you enough time. If it does not happen, then you will see that the emotion of anger will arise, and I would not stop myself from indulging in it and exploding out. So, you can use it. Sometimes when you use it only, the message gets across really strong. I am not using it just as an example, I am also giving you a warning, heads up. Though I was using it as an example. And you are laughing at it? How dare you laugh at it? So Manoj, I hope I have answered different stages of it.
Yeah. He says, is it okay to spend more time inquiring into the separateness than fixing the irrational thoughts?
What do you mean by that? Now, he is hearing it, so I hope he will type in. Type fast, Manoj. I am building the pressure on him.
He's typing.
He said, I don't write much in the journal, I use that time to meditate. So is it okay to spend more time inquiring into the separateness than fixing the irrational thoughts? In regards to our journal writing.
If you think you have reached to a stable platform wherein the negativities do not impact your life or lifestyle, then focusing on your meditation is fair enough. But otherwise, the whiplash or backlash effect would be pretty strong. You seem to have spent so much time, but the mind seemed to get back to its indisciplined pattern very quickly. Therefore, be a wise judge of where you are and act accordingly. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.